In our headlines on this Wednesday afternoon, February 28th, here in South Korea. Seoul's health ministry files a complaint against 5 doctors for violating medical laws and obstructing justice amid government plans to boost medical school admissions quota. Also, on the local front, findings for December show the number of newborns falling 3.8% on year, resulting in a fourth quarter fertility rate of 0.65, the lowest for any quarter. Meanwhile, NATO and the EU dismissed talk about a troop deployment to Ukraine as France's foreign ministry claims President Emmanuel Macron's earlier suggestion was in reference to soldiers being assigned to specific tasks such as mine clearance and not actual combat. Government authorities are putting into practice their words of warning against the collective action adopted by doctors here. Our Shin Ha-young reports.
The Ministry of Health and Welfare on Tuesday filed a complaint against 5 doctors protesting the government's expansion of the medical student admission quota. Affiliated with the Korean Medical Association, these doctors are charged with violating local medical laws and obstructing justice. This marks the first legal action taken by the government since the start of a mass walkout by trainee doctors about a week ago. The same day, the government announced that it has completed all legal reviews for judicial proceedings against trainee doctors who do not return to their posts by Thursday. This comes a day after the government issued the return-to-work deadline of February 29 for trainee doctors who have staged walkouts from hospitals to protest an increase in the medical school admissions quota.
Certain regulations can be implemented to safeguard the public interest and maintain social order. We have concluded the legal review, confirming that the measures align with the current medical system.
To respond quickly, especially in situations threatening the lives of patients, an immediate response team was established within the Health Ministry on Tuesday. The ministry announced a plan to speed up the enactment of the Special Act on Handling of Medical Accidents. It aims to exempt doctors from liability or criminal punishment in the event of a medical accident, thereby reducing the legal liabilities that doctors would otherwise bear in such cases. Meanwhile, during a meeting on cooperation between central and local governments also on Tuesday, President Yoon Suk-yeol stated that medical reform should not be subject to negotiation.
의료는 복지의 핵심입니다. 어린이와 노인, 장애인을 비롯한 의료 약자를 보호하는 것은 정부의 핵심 국정기조인 약자 복지와도 직결되어 있습니다. 그래서 이는 협상이나 타협의 대상이 될 수 없고 대소도 안 됩니다.
President Yoon emphasized the importance of reforming the stagnant medical school enrollment to ensure essential medical services and prepare for increasing demand due to rapid aging. He also urged cooperation between central and local governments to prevent gaps in patient care. The Korean Medical Association criticized the government, saying that suspending licenses and taking legal action against residents would further worsen the situation and eliminate any chance of their return to hospitals. Shin Ha-young, Arirang News.
Korea's grim demographic portrait continued into the month of December last year, with the number of newborns posting yet another plunge. Our Park Gon-woo covers the latest findings.
South Korea's population shrank again in December last year. According to data released by Statistics Korea on Wednesday, the number of newborns in December 2023 was around 16,000, down 3.8% on year. Birth figures for the fourth quarter last year also decreased by nearly 7% compared to the year before. The total fertility rate during that period was 0.65 per female, which was a fall of 0.05 from the previous year, making it the first time the total fertility rate fell below 0.7 for any quarter. Data also showed that the number of deaths in December dropped slightly compared to the year before, with a total of over 32,000. The figure for that month was the second highest in 2023 after January. With the number of deaths exceeding the number of births in December, the country's total population saw a natural decline of more than 16,000. The number of marriages last December was lower than 18,000, a drop of around 12% on year. Though that figure has been rising since September, the total number of registered marriages in quarter 4 decreased by over 5% on year. Divorce figures in Korea were down in both December and the fourth quarter. Park Gonu, Arirang News.
Samsung's Galaxy S24 smartphone series has surpassed 1 million domestic sales within a month of its launch. That would be 28 days to be precise. The 1 million milestone was reached back on Tuesday and beats the previous record set by the Galaxy S8 series back in the year 2017 by 9 days. The latest S24 series also set a pre-order sales record in the domestic market by selling over 1.2 million units. In other news, Seoul's top diplomat Cho Tae-yeol is in the U.S. meeting with officials there to reaffirm commitment to regional security and broader economic challenges. Our Choi Min-jung reports.
South Korea and the U.S. have reaffirmed that their economic cooperation has further expanded their alliance beyond military security. Seoul's Foreign Minister Cho Tae-yeol met with the U.S. Director of the National Economic Council, Lael Brainard, on Tuesday at the White House to discuss the two countries' economic synergy. According to the Foreign Ministry, Cho assessed that economic cooperation between the two countries has strengthened based on the Seoul-Washington Alliance and the 2012 Chorus Free Trade Agreement. He also evaluated that the U.S. government is creating results beneficial to both countries, thanks to close consultation with the Korean government in implementing economic policies, such as the CHIPS and Science Act and the Inflation Reduction Act. Echoing the sentiment, Brainard said she appreciated the alliance had grown beyond military security and that it's now working to respond to global economic uncertainties as well. She also stressed that South Korean companies operating in the U.S. and American companies operating in South Korea are contributing greatly to creating a stronger supply chain ecosystem as well as quality jobs. The two sides agreed to continue cooperating closely in the future. To do that, Minister Cho requested that the U.S. ensure that South Korean companies continue to receive treatment and incentives commensurate with their investment scale and contribution level in the U.S. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
The United Nations has denounced North Korea's supply of weapons to Russia. On day 2 of the latest disarmament forum in Geneva on Tuesday, France also urged North Korea to abide by UN Security Council resolutions against its hostile weapons ambitions. Ukraine, for its part, also condemned North Korea's support of Russian invasion, highlighting the loss of innocent lives and senseless destruction. Now, back on Monday, South Korea's second Vice Foreign Minister Kang In-sun called on the regime to cease its nuclear and missile programs and to return to nuclear disarmament talks. Come next Monday, South Korean forces and their U.S. counterparts will launch their joint Freedom Shield exercise. Now, the 11-day drill will integrate live exercises with constructive simulations. Our Peonji has more.
Starting next Monday, military forces of South Korea and the U.S. will hold their combined exercise, the Freedom Shield. In a joint press briefing on Wednesday, the two countries explained that this is designed to strengthen their combined defense posture and response capabilities, based on scenarios that reflect diverse threats within the security environment, as well as lessons learned from recent wars and conflicts.
The Republic of Korea and the United States militaries will conduct the Freedom Shield exercise to increase combined readiness and strengthen combined defensive posture for 11 days, from March 4th through the 14th.
They also said there will be a variety of combined field training exercises on land, at sea, and in the air to increase interoperability. Member states of the United Nations Command will also be taking part, and the Neutral Nations Supervisory Commission will observe the drills based on the armistice agreement.
There will be a total of 48 combined field training exercises taking place all across the Korean Peninsula, including joint airstrike training, joint tactical live fire exercises, joint air-to-air shooting, and air-to-ground bombing exercises.
South Korea's Defense Minister Shin Won-sik had also told reporters on Tuesday that Seoul and Washington plan to conduct twice the amount of combined exercises within the first half of this year, compared to the same period last year. He warned that the more the Allies strengthen combined exercises, the potential losses North Korea would suffer from starting a war would outweigh any gains, while adding that a full-scale attack from the north is unlikely. 배은지, Arirang News.
On the international front, talk of possible troop deployment to Ukraine has been firmly dismissed by the EU and NATO. The US also rejected prospects of American troop presence in Ukraine, while Russia was quick to issue an ominous warning. Our Lee Seung-jae has the latest.
The issue of sending troops was raised at a meeting in Paris on Monday, where European countries discussed ways to support Ukraine in its fight against Russia. There, Slovak Prime Minister Robert Fico raised the idea of troop support for Ukraine.
Several NATO and European Union member states are considering sending troops to Ukraine at a bilateral level.
French President Emmanuel Macron followed up, saying that there is no agreement on sending troops to Ukraine, but nothing should be ruled out, further stating that everything must be done so that Russia does not win. Looking to avoid further complicating the situation, EU and NATO member countries quickly expressed that they have no intention of having their countries send troops to support Ukraine. They include the leaders of Poland, the Czech Republic, and Hungary, who during a meeting in Prague strongly shot down the idea. EU and NATO member nations like Germany, the United Kingdom, Italy, and Spain also rejected deploying soldiers. The Pentagon on Tuesday also expressed an unwillingness to send military forces, despite being one of the biggest supporters of Ukraine during the 2-year-long war.
We have no plans to send U.S. service members to fight in Ukraine. The president has been pretty clear on that, and that continues to be our position.
Meanwhile, French Foreign Minister Stéphane Séjourné on Tuesday clarified Macron's comments that Paris could send troops to Ukraine, saying the troops could be used in specific ways, such as mine clearance, while not directly fighting against Russia. Meanwhile, the Kremlin sent a stark warning to NATO, saying that any troop support for Ukraine would inevitably result in direct conflict with Russia. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Many say a picture is worth 1,000 words. Accordingly, Korea and Italy are putting the wisdom of these words into practice at an exhibition here to mark 140 years of diplomatic ties. Our Iani was there.
This year marks 140 years of diplomatic relations between South Korea and Italy. To celebrate, a special photo exhibition named All Roads Lead to History, Italy and Korea, is being held in Seoul at the National Museum of Korean Contemporary History.
The most important aspect of this exhibition is to be able to explore the historical interactions between the two countries through photographs.
In 1884, what was then the Joseon dynasty signed a trade treaty with Italy. Later, when the Korean War broke out, Italy provided medical support for wounded soldiers and assistance to civilians for over 3 years. Photos and videos of the medical activities provided by Italian Red Cross during the Korean War in the 1950s are being unveiled for the first time in South Korea. This support during the war is seen as a solid foundation for strengthening the ties between the two countries. Although Italy wasn't a member of the United Nations, it responded to the international community's call and deployed a field hospital to South Korea.
I am deeply grateful for Italy's support, especially a Western country that knew very little about our nation during those tragic times, for coming all the way here to provide care for our people.
The exhibition also features the key interactions between the two countries in various areas, such as technology, sports, and music. The official theme song of the 1988 Seoul Olympic Games, Hand in Hand, was composed by Italian composer Giorgio Moroder. Korea's Culture Minister Yoo In-chon says it is still considered the greatest theme song in Olympic history.
The fact that the museum promotes the people's participation, I think that's something important because it makes people feel good about it and make part of it.
South Korea and Italy have declared 2024 to 2025 as the years of cultural exchange. Different events are scheduled throughout the year to enhance bilateral relations. This exhibition aims to serve as a milestone for what Korea's culture minister described as a vibrant cultural interaction in the coming years. The special exhibition is hosted by the National Museum of Korean History, the Italian Embassy in Korea, and also the Culture Ministry and major news agency of each country. It will run until March 31st. 이은희, Arirang News.
On the entertainment front, BTS member Jungkook, who is currently serving in the military, sealed a spot in the top 10 global singles chart 2023 with his track 7. The International Federation of Phonographic Industry says 7 ranked number 10 on the chart with sales of 1.24 billion. Sales figures are converted from all digital formats, including single-track downloads and paid subscription streaming from over 8,000 record labels worldwide. Exports of Korea's kim, or dried seaweed, posted a record high last year, with the U.S. proving to be the biggest market. That being said, my colleague Lee Soo-jin walks us through its harvesting, auctioning and packaging for overseas delivery. To take a look.
It's a cold and dry morning here on the west coast of South Korea. The perfect weather to harvest kim.
We harvested around 120 tons of kim today. The waves are roughter during the colder weather, which actually makes it taste better.
Local fishermen get up at 4 in the morning to harvest the kim that's been cultivated by eco-friendly techniques, ones that no longer use inorganic acids as cleansers after harvesting. Gigantic bags filled with the harvested kim are brought back to port and unloaded so they can be weighed. And this seaweed right here, fresh from the sea, will soon be dried and roasted in nearby factories before being exported worldwide. Exports of kim last year reached a record annual high of 1 trillion won, or around $790 million, making it South Korea's biggest seafood export. And which kim will be exported across the world? That will be decided in this auction that begins at 11 a.m. sharp each day, where primary kim processing plant employees enter a bidding war to secure the best quality seaweed. One bag typically contains 120 kilograms of seaweed. Kim Min-tae, a director of a primary kim processing plant, purchases around 70 tons of kim each day at these auctions.
The kim that we bought today was of great quality. It's also nutritious because it's grown in mudflats, inscribed as World Natural Heritages by UNESCO.
It is washed thoroughly before being subjected to high pressure and heat in machines that mass-produce dried sheets of kim. The dried kim is then moved to secondary processing plants where it's roasted at nearly 500 degrees and sprinkled with salt. It is now ready to be fed into an auto-cutting machine before being packaged and shipped to places such as the United States, South Korea's top export destination for kim.
Exports are expected to rise 4 to 5 times year on year.
He and other owners of processing plants, as well as local fishermen, all have no doubts about the momentum behind kim exports continuing, but aren't as confident about whether supply can meet the high demand.
The government should ease regulations on the expansion of seaweed farms.
While the Oceans Ministry has announced a 5-year plan to boost exports, more active investment and policy reforms will be necessary to reach its target export value of $1 billion by 2027. Lee Soo-jin, Arirang News, Seocheon.
Let's take a look at the latest news in the world now. In Poland, thousands of farmers gathered in Warsaw to demonstrate against the EU's climate policies and agricultural imports from Ukraine. The protest is one of many across Europe over the past weeks and is a sign that the West is experiencing fatigue in supporting Ukraine as they continue to resist Russia's invasion. According to Warsaw City Hall, some 10,000 people participated in the protests in front of the Polish parliament, demanding the withdrawal of Poland from the EU's Green Deal, which they deemed too costly, and calling for a ban on imports of Ukrainian grain, which they argue is having a negative impact on Poland's agricultural industry. Ahead of the upcoming EU parliamentary elections in June, protests by farmers in other countries such as Italy, Spain, and Belgium have emerged as a prominent political issue. Heavy rainfall in southeastern Peru over the last week has led to devastating floods, displacing thousands. At least 2,800 people are struggling for aid amid power outages, a scarcity of drinking water, and a spike in dengue fever. Southeastern Peru has been battered by relentless downpours, with forecasters having warned of an additional 72 hours of heavy rainfall. Rivers have swelled beyond their banks, inundating Inapari city of Tauhamanu province, a lifeline-like region for communities across the borders of Brazil and Bolivia. The overflowing rivers not only submerged streets but also engulfed at least 600 houses, isolating the region from everyday life. With at least 32 people having died of dengue fever due to the heavy rains and a heat wave leading to a spike in the disease, Peru declared a health emergency in most parts of the country on Monday. French football superstar Kylian Mbappé joined a dinner on Tuesday hosted by French President Emmanuel Macron for Qatari Emir Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, who begins his two-day state visit to France. The main reason for the emir's visit was the negotiations in the French capital for a truce in Gaza, where Qatar would play a role in mediating an immediate and permanent ceasefire agreement in the Gaza Strip. Meanwhile, Mbappé, who plays for Qatari-owned Paris Saint-Germain, is set to leave the club once his contract ends in June. The player confirmed his exit earlier this month. Brazil's Federal Police and Environmental Protection Agency have said that they have repatriated native parrots and monkeys suspected of having been illegally trafficked to Togo. Several countries supported the repatriation operation, and the animals, including 12 parrots of the Lear's macaw species and 17 golden lion tamarins, were returned to Brazil over the weekend, according to a statement from the Federal Police. Each macaw is reportedly worth between $60,000 and $100,000, and the tamarins are worth $15,000 each on clandestine markets. 4 men involved in the illegal trafficking were arrested. Choi Ji-hee, Arirang News.
Good afternoon. We are having big gaps in readings today. Daegu even had sub-zero temperatures this morning, but highs are rising fast to the low teens. Please dress accordingly and take good care of yourself. You really don't want to get sick around this time. Central areas had a warmer start to the morning than yesterday. Then highs in most places will go up to similar or slightly higher than yesterday. Seoul sees a high of 9 degrees. Busan, Gwangju, Jeju at 13 degrees Celsius this afternoon. Mostly cloudy skies in store nationwide with decent air quality. Now there's rain in the forecast tomorrow in southern provinces. Jeju could see 10 to 40 millimeters of somewhat heavy showers. The rain on Thursday will bring a sharp drop in temperatures. And do expect to have spring cold over the Independence Movement Day weekend, but skies will be sunny in most parts of Korea. Take the weather into account for your plans. Then temperatures return to season norms early next week. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions. That ends our afternoon newscast for this Wednesday here in South Korea. Thank you for watching, but do stay with us for our daily panel session coming up right after this break.
we asked global leaders, what fuels your passion? How did you develop the courage to take that leap? What would you say to those who look up to you, the globalists? For those who dream of the world stage, the globalists will share their stories. You're watching the globalists. You're watching Arirang.
Lotte takes a new leap beyond its boundaries. Our change will lead to better lives for all. New Lotte, the power of a better world. New today, better tomorrow. Lotte.
Industry insiders say there has been a shift in travel trends among foreign visitors to Korea post-pandemic. So what are the new preferences of travelers to Korea? And is Korea's tourism back on track? Also, what has been recommended for those in search of unique cultural experiences? Welcome to Wednesday's edition of Issues and Insiders. I'm Min Sun-hee. Today, we explore travel trends among foreign travelers to Korea post-pandemic. For this, I have Kwon Swal with me in the studio. So, welcome back.
Hello, Sunny.
I also have Joelle Burnett, YouTuber, of course. Joelle, it's been a while. Welcome back.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to see you.
Right. So, let's start off with you then. Is tourism back on track here in South Korea?
Yes and no, Sunny. The tourism sector has definitely recovered recently, but not to pre-pandemic levels. A little over 11 million foreign tourist arrivals were recorded in 2023, a 245% jump from the year before, according to the Korea Tourism Organization. That's a rebound to 63% of what we saw before COVID-19 in 2019, when some 17.5 million foreign tourists made a trip to Korea. This is due to a slow recovery in the number of Chinese tourist arrivals, which used to make up a large portion of Korea's tourism. Despite the lifting of China's travel restrictions, a shift from group tourists to individual tourists, China's economic downturn, as well as Japan's weak yen that turns Chinese travelers to Japan rather than Korea, are attributed to the slow recovery. But elsewhere in the world, it's looking a little better. The United Nations World Tourism Organization, in fact, expects international tourism to get on track to return to pre-pandemic levels this year, with its data showing 88% of recovery in 2023. Now, Europe last year saw foreign arrivals reach 94% of pre-pandemic levels, Africa 96%, and the Middle East even enjoyed 22% more visits than during the pre-pandemic season, or 2019.
Right, I see. So for South Korea, we have a little bit more room for improvement then with regard to tourism. Joelle, where does Korea stand on the list of countries that foreign visitors wish to visit? And what do you suppose has been the impact of K-content on K-tourism, if you will, Joelle?
Gosh, I mean, to start with, Korea has to be one of the top countries that foreigners and people want to visit around the world. I think, you know, we're talking about kind of K-content, K-pop, K-dramas, you know, things like Parasite, movies that are coming out, BTS, Squid Games, even in the last 5 years, it's put Korea on the map. I think about kind of growing up in the UK, and 20 years ago when I was a teenager, I didn't have access to understand anything about kind of Korea. I barely knew where Korea was. And I think about kind of, recently I went back to London, and people in the street, they're talking about Squid Game, they're talking about Parasite, they're talking about BTS, there's Korean restaurants that are open, and it's absolutely massive. And I think what that gives people is the ability to bring Korea to the other side of the world and bring it into their homes through kind of, especially through, you know, Parasite, you know, these kind of storytelling. It kind of gives a real insight into Korean culture, and people kind of, they love that, and they get a relationship with it, and because of that, people want to come to Korea. Definitely.
Right, indeed. The narrative has served us quite well, the narrative there. So where do most of Korea's foreign visitors come from, and what do they enjoy doing here?
Well, I earlier mentioned the drop in the number of Chinese tourists to Korea. So the country accounting for the biggest portion of foreign arrivals as of latest is Japan. When we look at the total year 2023, some 2.2 million Japanese tourists came over to South Korea, followed by around 2 million from China. Placed third are Americans at close to 1.1 million, and arrivals from Taiwan and Vietnam were in the top 5 as well. Now, if we take a look at the next graph here, it shows the increase in travelers' expenditures from just before the pandemic and last year. Americans opened their wallets more than any other tourists, accounting for almost 20% of foreign tourism spending, up from 6% in 2019, and that's by almost 14%. Increases by 7.7% and 5.7% were seen from Japanese and Taiwanese visitors, and also a slight upward change from British and Thai tourists. Now, Chinese inbound travelers used to make up 66.5% of spending in 2019, so definitely a big shift in Korea's tourism sector. And along with a diversification in nationalities among travelers, there is also a shift in what tourists enjoy during in Korea. While department store and duty-free shopping is not as popular as years ago, typical Korean experiences that were not possible during group tours, like going to singing rooms and unmanned photo booths, are in trend. Also, in the capital's Seoul, where more than 70% of spending occurs, Seongsu-dong, Yeouido, and Hannam-dong are locations gaining a lot of popularity. Trips to the southern port city of Busan have also increased, as it's a must-visit place for BTS fans. And speaking of BTS, K-Wave experience activities are also on the to-do list of many tourists.
Good to know. So I understand that travel trends are also very much affected by the nationality of our travelers to the country, that is.
Exactly. Korean travel platform Korea-Trip looked into data from January to October last year, which showed the consumption trend by nation, or maybe I should say group of nations, when traveling to Korea. So these were categorized into Taiwan, Japan, and Western countries and Singapore. So Western countries and Singapore being one category. Taiwanese visitors were found to have spent a lot on renting clothes, such as Korea's traditional attire, hanbok, or Korean-style school uniforms that they would wear and walk around traditional places or amusement parks and take memorable photos. K-food was also popular among Taiwanese visitors, which included delivery services, also very interesting. And another interesting preference was noted in the beauty sector, being personal color diagnosis. For Japanese tourists, K-food accounted for 40% of spending. Kimchi dishes and soy sauce marinated crab, or 간장게장 in Korean, are especially favored. And behind food was, again, rental services for clothing, beauty clinics, hair and beauty salons, and that including semi-permanent makeup, skin treatments, etc. Finally, the keyword for travelers from Western countries and Singapore was hair salons, making up 60% of expenditures. So that really seems to be a must-do course when being in Korea for them. And money was also largely spent at beauty salons and beauty clinics for K-Wave activities and dining. And in the K-Wave category, it was products like concerts and visits to filming locations, as well as tickets for K-pop TV shows.
Right. And going back to K-food, Joel, now chicken, it appears to be a very popular menu among foreign visitors here. If you could add one particular food to the list of K-foods available, what would you add?
Oh, just one food.
Right, one, two,
gosh.
perhaps.
I mean, this is the issue, because Korea is such a food culture. It's like, how can you just choose one? But I'll tell you about an experience I had in Jeju a couple of years ago. I grew up in the UK, and I didn't eat a lot of fish growing up. Maybe fish and chips occasionally, but it's very different. It's fried, it's battered, you know, it's a very different vibe. And I had this experience where I was able to go out on a boat and fish. And I'd never done fishing before, and we caught some fish, and afterwards the 사장님 kind of cut it up for us, and with a bit of chili sauce and a bit of samjang, and we just ate in that moment. It's called hue, so
raw fish,
sliced raw fish, and it was life-changing. And so I would love to recommend for anyone kind of coming to Korea, if you're a foodie, get out to the coast and eat some hue.
Is there a particular season that we need to keep in mind? Should we be doing that in the winter or in the summer?
So yeah, so depending on where you're going to do it, I think that is a factor. I've heard that in different times of the year, it's on season, off season. I can't remember exactly which is which, but I go down in the summer and love to be.
And that's been quite an experience.
Yeah.
For foreign travelers to Korea who are not too fond of spicy food, is there something you'd like to recommend?
Oh gosh.
Apart from kimbap.
Kimbap.
I was going to say apart from kimbap. It's a very popular dish.
So something that I've been eating a lot over the winter is 곰탕. And it's got this kind of, especially if I eat a lot of spicy food, so every now and again, especially for lunch, I need something kind of warm, a nice soup, and so I'll have like a 한우 곰탕.
Right. Beef stew.
Beef stew. Thank you. I didn't know what that was in English.
Right, 곰탕, we call it. So that's also quite popular among the foreign travelers here as well, right?
Right. Yeah, I would assume so. I mean, it's phenomenal.
It was actually my dinner menu yesterday.
Hey. It's very popular in the winter, especially. Joel, what would you recommend for short-term travelers perhaps in search of unique cultural experiences? I understand it's a tough question.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of unique cultural experience here in Korea. Obviously, we were talking a little bit earlier about kind of K content, and I think we see a lot of this kind of Korean culture that has been put in the limelight. I had this, so me and one of my best friends, Dan and I, we run a YouTube channel, and we had this experience last year where we went to, I think it was Namwon, and I'd never been before, a very small kind of village down in the south of Korea, and we did something called otchil, which is...
Haven't tried it.
You haven't tried it? But it's the process, the Korean traditional process of lacquering. And so you're kind of making these wooden products, whether it's cup, plates, and beautiful kind of stuff like that. And we had this just this amazing kind of experience of just lacquering these products, and it was really special, and it was really unique. And as we were talking to the people who in the kind of the local area, and also the people who create these products, it was very, very special. And the artistry helped for me personally, helped me understand kind of deeper an aspect of Korean culture. So that would be something that, if you can get down to Namwon, do try.
If you could, supposing we had just one day to spend in the capital city, then is there something we can do here that's a bit more cultural?
Just in Seoul?
Yes.
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, there's so many things to do.
Could perhaps visit the palace grounds, right, Swa? That'll be quite popular.
That'd be good. I mean, I see a lot of foreigners, they like to put on the hanbok. And to wear the kind of Korean traditional dress. So that's something that
Have you tried it?
I have tried it. So at first I was a little bit skeptical because I was like, oh gosh, like I'm not the kind of person to dress up. And I did it. It's just a really amazing experience. So I really recommend it.
Right, I'm sure. So could you share with us some travel tips now as outlined by our Culture Ministry?
Sure. An extension of last year, this year, 2024, has also been designated as the Visit Korea Year, which is a promotional campaign aimed at attracting more visitors and integrate all kinds of interests and benefits for tourists in Korea. Among 10 major projects is the K-Culture Travel Events 100 program, under which tourism products have been developed that involve Korean culture, arts, contents, games, sports, and food in various regions across the country. People that plan to visit Korea this year may want to check the events happening during specific months or seasons. From April through October, major K-culture events take place, such as a pop-up store at the Hiker Ground Tourism Center in Seoul, or K-pop dance events down in the south in Jeonju and Gyeongju. For K-beauty fans, the month of June offers a Korea Beauty Festival. July will be the month of e-sport festivals and competitions, and in October, a huge K-Wave festival is in preparation. And a so-called Korea bucket list program is slated for September through November, and that's expected to attract foreigners even after the summer holiday peak season, as some 10,000 tourists will be picked to experience all kinds of activities they always wanted to do in Korea. Special welcoming events during Japan's Golden Week in April and China's National Day holiday in September are also in plans. For visitors that are currently in Korea, the Korea Grand Sale is running until tomorrow, Thursday. And meanwhile, I also want to mention that the Korea Tourism Organization's YouTube channel, Imagine Your Korea, just reached over 1 million subscribers last week. And that is significant because with that, it became the first country-level tourism organization to receive a Gold Creator Award on the platform, so demonstrating Korea's efforts in trying to, garner more attention on tourism here in the country.
Right, remarkable, I'm sure. Joel, what do you propose then to boost travel beyond Korea's major cities to perhaps its more quaint rural regions?
So I think, as was just said, having YouTube is a great platform, and having YouTube creators to be able to go to these places and have these experiences, then people can kind of have exposure to see what the culture is like outside of Seoul. Because with Seoul, there's kind of this paradoxical issue where it's now on the global scale. It's London, it's Paris, it's Tokyo, it's Seoul. It's such a big kind of economically in terms of its cultural influence. People want to come here, which is it's a great issue to have. But what that can sometimes do is it can take away from the places outside of Seoul, the other cities and the other towns, and I think exposure is key. Exposure is key. So whether that's kind of we were talking before about K content, so whether it's in the dramas or it's in the films, the movies, where stories can kind of speak a little bit more about those kind of places.
So film locations could perhaps serve to raise interest in these quaint rural areas of Korea then.
Exactly, yeah.
You mentioned YouTube, Joel. Now,
Yes.
you were on our show, I believe, last year. We were talking about your YouTube channel, Dan and Joel, that's your best friend. And I remember asking you a question about which particular series on your channel garnered a lot of interest from your viewers. Would you like to tell us a bit about that again?
So, are you referring to the kind of taking the old... Yes. So we have a friend of ours, old lady, who collects cardboard. And Dan especially had kind of been building this relationship with her for a few years and was able to take her for a meal and kind of sit and talk about her story and what what is it like to kind of be in Korea but kind of pick up cardboard. And it was really beautiful, and she kind of shared about how she was from the farmlands and kind of came into the city, and a little bit about her journey. And yeah, that was a really special kind of, felt like a really unique moment for us, and to be able to tell that story in that way was a real honor, real privilege.
Right. So beyond just information about traveling in Korea, your channel also shares a lot of the human aspects of the country, right? Human stories. So on a more sober note now, it's been found that Korea's returning travel numbers have been retreating. Could you tell us a bit more about this particular phenomenon?
Right. Based on data as of 2022, 90.6% of inbound tourists said they are willing to make a revisit to Korea within 3 years. However, the actual percentage of revisits stands at 45%, lower than 58.4% in 2019. Reason for that, according to experts, is that travelers are satisfied with their first time in Korea, but do not find any new things to enjoy when they would make another trip. And that seems to be reflected, though, in the purpose of people who do make a second or third trip, as the main purpose for their visits seems to be shifting from, for instance, shopping for cosmetics or products advertised by celebrities to K-food. In fact, a survey by Seoul City last year showed that K-food was the primary reason to make a revisit to Korea. And as we have been talking about, we should have more exposure in the movies or K-dramas, so maybe increased exposure of food in these shows on Korean TV and also movies may help in attracting more foreigners to make more than one visit to Korea.
Right, to come back to the country then. Joel, this is a very general question, but what do you suggest to ensure a more rewarding travel experience here in South Korea?
I mean, to hear these statistics, actually, for me, it's quite surprising because I've lived here 6 years and I feel like I'm still scratching the surface. Every day, there's an opportunity to experience something new here. I really honestly feel that. I was thinking kind of what would be my perfect day if I've got a free day in Korea, and it would be kind of explore one of Korea's coffee shops. The coffee culture here is not just in terms of the taste and the level and the quality, but in terms of the size, whether it's big or small, there's a coffee shop for everyone. And if you spent the next kind of 5 years just exploring coffee shops, there's going to be a new one every day. So that's something that I think is incredibly unique. So I'd start... Is there
a particular neighborhood in which you like the coffee shops there?
There's many. I think there's a lot of places in Seoul, but I live in Yeonnam-dong, and there's a lot of really good coffee shops there. So
small ones?
Small ones and some slightly bigger ones as well, yeah.
What is it about the Korean coffee shops that appeal to you?
I love kind of just sitting and being. I'm quite a fast-paced kind of person. I'm quite hyperactive, so when I have a coffee, even though it kind of awakens my mind, I like to just sit and be and experience the atmosphere. And I often have this kind of, not argument, but this kind of question with my friends, like, what is more important, the taste of the coffee or the atmosphere of the coffee shop? And I have a friend who's like, the atmosphere is more important. And for me, it's probably taste. But if you can get both of those things right, which I think Korea often does in most of its coffee shops, then that's it's so nice to sit and just be...
So you're getting a taste of the actual coffee itself as well as tasting the atmosphere around you.
Exactly, yeah.
Right.
I love that you mentioned coffee shops, because I also realized that we have more and more so-called coffee gori, so coffee streets in the various districts in the capital Seoul. So yeah, I think that could be one more, theme for foreigners to visit Korea in the future.
Yeah. Right, of course, even beyond the capital city. All right, Joel, thank you so much for your time and your thoughts today. And so, as always, thank you very much for your insights.
My pleasure.
Right, well, this coming Friday here in Korea marks the start of a long weekend to commemorate the March 1st Independence Movement Day. So for those of you here who have yet to make plans, perhaps a short trip, cultural trip, if you could be an option. Thank you for watching. See you tomorrow.